be out of here at 6 o'clock on the dot because there's a student union meeting here. So, Damon, we might have to continue discussion about yours.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Turn the volume down on that music so it doesn't distract us.
Oh, there you are. Thank you for staying. I'm very excited to be here. I'm still not quite sure, but I've decided that I was going to leave it till the end, but since we're running out of time, so I was going to try and do something different where I was going to spend 10 minutes to give in context and then have this, as Evie's just done with the music in the background, so have my practice or my life, really. So I'm just going to play this quickly and then go back.
Oi. Sometimes I look down, sometimes I look up. Oi. Sometimes I look down, sometimes I look up. Oi, that's it. Oi, oi.
So, I guess I should begin by saying, yeah, the reason I'm really excited to be here is because it means a lot to me, a great deal, and I do take myself very seriously at times. And it's a real honor, really, to be, recognized as having a talent and then coming to London and working here, working with my peers and the staff. And it's something that I try not to take for granted. And so the school group last year, I was with Laura Satzer and Jane Wilson. So Wilson was a reference that I was aware of before I came and I spoke about in my interview. But Aura, I really enjoyed the whole thing. And I was introduced to Lackey's Furujuki Made Me Hardcore. And absolutely amazing. A proper booming. This 10 minutes of like different amalgamation of found footage through like 70s British, really, like the dance culture, and then how he's melancholic and how he used to get really drunk, and I mean he'd be sobbing, and I'd spent times like I've cried recently trying to make this piece, and I see. So the next 10 minutes is kind of how I'd like a sketchbook, like a collage-y, like this notion that Rachel just mentioned, where like I really surf in the internet and getting into these hyperlink loopholes and this vortex of where am I going? So, but I really like this image, and if a couple of you know me, like online, like I like how it's color and it's time. So time's a big crux in my praxis, and the notion of like trying to map out the history or trying to develop this graphic language so I understand where I've come from and where we're going, and these notions and this grid and curved and straight edges. So I'd like to go back a bit to me and my mum. So she means a great deal to me. And she comes from, we're born in North Wales, and then, so this is me going to a Welsh school, and she's from a traveller family. And I don't think she realised at the time, I don't think it was conscious, but if you spell Damon backwards, it's nomad. So I'm trying to take you on this nomadic journey of trying to figure out what's going on. So this is a poem I made. I left school and went to work in the factory, and this is a poem I made. And instead of using, I was constantly questioning why the reason for being here was, and I decided that unless I could come up with a positive response, then it would get to me too much. So I developed, we have this tradition where we orate, and from Wales being like, language and poetry means a lot to us, and how I'd almost synced with the machine. So I'd be constantly asking this question: is why am I here? So, and the response was always my mother's son was the reason why. So Mabi Vama Resum Pam was the line that I got. So I started to begin to ask questions. So it's Pam Codi yn y bore, Pam teimlo fel wneud fy ngore, Mabi Vama Resum Pam, Pam di fy ngalon ddim ar werth, a Pam troi tuag at y tŷ pam sgen i'n i'r nerth. Mabi Vama Resum Pam. Pam credu na dyna sydd i Duw, Pam gofyn dwi weithio di dal yn fyw. So they're like, why wake in the morning, or why try your best? Why isn't my heart for sale? Why do I turn to you when I have no strength? Why do I believe that God is a woman? Why do I ask myself? So it's what I'd been learned to do, and I was very fortunate in school, being educated through the Welsh mainstream. I was lucky enough to have the chief. So we have I'll go on to it later, hopefully, where the main so we have a cultural festival every year, and alternates between the north and the south, and there's a big chairing of the bard. So the head bard, you're only allowed to win it twice, and you go under the pseudonym. And Frank Lloyd Wright actually has on his fireplace the words to the ceremony, which would be agreed and urban abid Iris Heather. So the truth against the world is their peace. And then so-and-so stands up. So my teacher he is the chief bard at the moment. So he helped me. I run to him. I said, can you help me have this idea? So he helped. So this before I got to Brighton, where I did my BA and I learned to gather any source material, I still had this creative urge. So this is a Magnum Archive photograph. It's a Cartier-Bresson. And they're two of my favourite people after my mother. So this is Aneurin Bevan and his wife Jenny Lee. Or Jenny Lee and her husband Aneurin. So Aneurin, if you wouldn't know, would spearheaded the NHS, and Jenny Lee opened universities and the South Bank she's influential in. So, and there's another couple of socialists there. Then this is another one. This is a Hearn from Magnum Archive. So this is Aberfan. So this is a Welsh mining disaster that would have been 50 years ago recently, where just as the children, this is a Welsh school, and so there's a coal mine nearby, and it's called the Slag Heap, which where the waste goes was on top of the valley, and it gave way and it took out the school. And actually there was no real there's no real kind of support offered, and it was the Cray twins that were the biggest donators at the time. So there's a lot of it's like why this is quite specific as to why I'm here today in school in London, and so trying to show, well, the references will be kind of what brought me here, and I would do this wherever I'd go. I think there is that urge.
Get rid of this, shall we?
Heavy mug.
Thank you, Peter. At least you can spell. Harry Parker, your social worker, I know Harry very well. He says you're bright, says you're worth a bit of bother.
Wouldn't take the time if I were you.
Don't be clever, don't be smart. We've no time to waste. Get up. Plenty of other kids we could be dealing with. You really want to behave like a moron, we'll put you with all the other morons under lock and key at Ashmere House. I can do that. I'll have you transferred to a secure unit. We'll do your assessment from there. If you're going to stay here, let's make it clear. You're going to have to step into line. Just a sec. You're going to have to step into line, and you're going to have to cooperate. Now, that shouldn't be too difficult. We're a reasonable lot.
I'm not signing any contract.
Well, let's look at that, shall we? Let's give your intelligence the benefit of the doubt. Mr. Parker says you're a bright lad, and I respect his opinion. So I have a particular interest in you. Personal. Between the two of us. I want you to prove to me you're worth all the time and effort that we're prepared to put into you. Your big break, this. Because I'll not give you a second chance. All right?
All right.
Good.
So, cheers. I won't try not to take up, I'll fly through it. So this is an album. There's the next, quickly, the 3 albums I listen to when I'm in the factory. So, Alex Holland is actually from Leeds, but he moved and he now lives in Finsbury Park. And this album uses skits and it sampled the speech, particular Trevor's speech. So this perspective, though, is what I was interested in. She'd gone on to Casper quickly, which is quite nice. But earlier on with Said, was this kind of the romanticism as a reaction to the industrial future and the unknown and the uncertainty you're looking forward to. So the other ones, this is, Ruth is another German then who's moved to London, who's a tutor in photography, who the streets have used this image as the album cover of original Pyromaterial. And this is titled Town Inferno, and I'd like to quickly pay my respects to Grenfell. And is the other thing about the lighting, the next one quickly would be Dizzy's Boy in the Corner. So Dizzy comes from Bow. He's born here. So I kind of wanted to show what would happen in these high-rises as an experience, and this is what goes on at the top. So Crazy Titch is now serving a life sentence for murder, but Dizzy's gone on to be the pop star that we all know he is. So here he is winning the Mercury Awards.
Dizzy, you're asking.
That he thanks his God and his mum. His real name's Dylan, which then takes me on to Dylan Thomas, which had been a massive influence to me and how he consumes himself with death. So these machines have really helped me flick through. And this is this is Mike Skinner, who was born in Birmingham, but he moved down to London. So his album was The Streets. Wales and Magnus Maximus. Charles, Paradise Papers have been just released. Where's our taxes going? Yola Moganog. So I was talking about this Gorseth. So this bit where the studio is. So this word is literally translated as a throne. But what it means is that when we hold this festival, so this is the festival I was mentioning, this guy, Yolo, he's a forger. So he forged a lot of documents that revived the Welsh Cultural Festival. So it's fake news. People believing in fake news. I absolutely love it. So then so the Peaky Blinders reference is they come to Wales to meet. His wife's died, and he looks to Madame Boswell to almost read palms, but to explain that, you know what I mean, there's a curse on him. And We're done, but I just want to finish with this.
Yeah, it's that's really high. All you are. I'm going over.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rage innocent day.
Rage against the dying of the light.
Against the dying of life.
Thank you very much.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage